Okay, so it's 11:32. Welcome, everyone. Looks like we're going to be getting started any minute now. Okay, our panelists are ready. And our attendants. And so, good morning, everyone. My name is Santiago Andres Garcia. We're broadcasting live here from Rio Hondo College. Okay. Attendees, I see Bianca and Brian, and Cindy, and Claudia, and Eva, Joey, and Kevin, and Vanessa. Welcome, everyone. Okay. I see more people are coming on board. Vanessa, welcome, everyone. So we're going to go ahead and get started and be prompt here. Just do some quick maintenance. Run. Okay. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started here. Okay. So as my colleague, Professor Lucha Arevalo has just mentioned, please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat. Okay, so that's more than proper. So please go ahead and do that. Actually, let's go ahead and do that now. Okay. So we got Joey. Joey, welcome. Okay. I'm new to the Eastside Cafe community. Good. Welcome, Joey. Let's see if anyone else wants to introduce themselves. They may. Okay. Some of our panelists are starting to arrive here. Okay. Cynthia is on board. Cynthia, good morning. Welcome. Anthony, we have Anthony Garcia, student attending Rio Hondo. Okay. I come from the Zapotec community. Okay. So, Anthony, thank you. Thank you. Okay. Good morning. Good morning, Eva. Okay. Librarian, Mount Sac. Okay. So, thank you. Okay. Bianca Casillas from Rio Hondo. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Cynthia. Okay. Eva from Mount Sac says, I love the Eastside Cafe, train and practice. Okay. Gracias and bless. Thank you. Bianca Casillas, thank you. Ron Espiritu. Ron, good morning. Thank you. Okay. Ron is ethnic studies teacher and scholar. Okay. Director of his own programs. Okay. Good. Maria Elena. Okay. History instructor at LA Trade Tech. Thank you, Maria Elena Martinez. Okay. It's good to see everyone. Good morning, Claudia, Itzel, Marquez, watching from home with the children. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Okay. Cool. We got a good group. Good group here. We have 14 attendants and we have our panelists. Okay. Lucha, good morning. How are you? We'll get started.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Okay. So let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to be sharing a screen with you all so that I could introduce this program. Okay. Let's go ahead and share one of my screens here. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Everyone can see me. Okay. So good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Santiago Andres Garcia. I'm professor of anthropology and humanities here at Rio Hondo Community College. Okay. This is a very unique place, Rio Hondo College. We are situated alongside the one of the biggest regional cemeteries. A lot of our ancestors are buried here. And also at the same time, we are on the traditional Native American Gabrielino and Tangba and Quiche territories. So I wanted to go ahead and mention that, that we are here on their land. So I wanted to say that. I'm going to start off by introducing the Mesoamerican Clay-Figurine Project, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about how that's tied into our sustaining public engagement, for the next year. Okay. So, I began the Mesoamerican Clay-Figurine Project back in 2014, and this project has, grown in all kinds of directions. One of those directions being, this program here. It was a classroom project, and I started bringing clay into the classroom as a way of meeting a number of student learning outcomes. I found that working with clay brought a number of health benefits. Students were able to identify with the material, with the clay, and it was one way of me being able to connect students with the land. Okay. In addition to working with clay, I also brought in a lot of self-reflective writing exercises. We did a lot of storytelling, and we partook in a lot of discussions. It was my way of being able to better connect with my students and allowing them to open up, right? So it was definitely along the lines of racial equity and beginning to cultivate avenues of justice for a lot of our students. In addition to that work, I also brought in a host of artists and teachers, organizers and medicine people, people from the community, just bringing them into my classroom and getting my students exposed to a lot of what our community on the outside of the classroom, what they were doing. And so that was real positive, getting my students to partake and to be a part of that civil engagement. So that went over really well. Let me go ahead and go to the next slide. I can say that for the most part, it's been a positive experience. It's been really good. I've been here at Rio Hondo Community College for over 10 years, directing this project. And like I said earlier, it's grown into a lot of directions. The Mesoamerican Clay-Figurine Project is nationally recognized by the American Studies Association, the American Council of Learned Societies, most recently the National Endowment of the Humanities. So it's been positive in that respect. The teaching strategies and the supporting knowledge have been published in peer review articles. All of this knowledge, all of these articles, and that we published are on the website. So I know that the link is going to be shared in the chat, and that's mesofigurineproject.org. Okay, the mesofigurineproject.org. The project has received major funding over the past 3 years, and that's pretty significant. It's allowed myself and my students the opportunity to have materials to work with, to have the appropriate, literature, and then to be able to share with our community and to be able to bring in, our guest speakers and to be able to, compensate everyone in the appropriate manner. So it's definitely been a positive experience. So earlier in the year, we sort of went big, and as you can see from my notes right here, we won, right? We won this big grant. The ACLS, the American Council of Learned Societies, in partnership with the National Endowment of the Humanities and the American Rescue Plan Act, awarded the project a significant grant. And that's one of the reasons why we're able to put on this, this programming. So we're really thankful and grateful to the ACLS and the National Endowment of the Humanities. And then, of course, that movement that was done in Washington to sort of, restart and get our, our economy, back in, back into, what it was prior to this pandemic. So we're really grateful about that. Okay. My next slide here. So, the work continues. With this grant, we're going to be putting on these 3 educational encuentros that you see here. We have Encuentro 1, which is today, Encuentro 2, which is going to be happening in October, and then Encuentro 3, which is going to be happening in November. So we have these 3 educational meetings programmed. We have a public book symposium that is going to be happening in the early part of next year. And then we have a program on community health and medicine that is going to be happening the early part of next year. So, we have the whole year lined up, as a part of the sustaining the public engagement, right? And so the work continues. And so my next slide here, the Eastside Cafe. So at this point, I want to go ahead and take a moment and recognize the Eastside Cafe. When we won this grant, it was only natural for us, to want to bring in the Eastside Cafe as one of our hosting partners. The Eastside Cafe is a Maya Zapatista inspired community. And for the past, 20 years, they've been instrumental in, organizing the community about some very important issues on many fronts. They've been truly inspiring, and they have inspired teachers and artists and scholars and organizers that are now working, in all places of the country. So truly a very inspiring place. And it's, it does really, bring us a lot of pleasure. And it's really good to be able to work with the Eastside Cafe, for all of the inspiring work that they have done and whatnot. So at this point, too, what I want to do is I want to go ahead and hand it off to Angela Flores, who is from the Eastside Cafe, and she's one of the original co-founders of the cafe. So she's here, and she's also going to be sharing a message with us in just a minute. Other people who you are going to be hearing from today, of course, we have our panelist of speakers who are going to be presenting on their, teaching strategies. So we have our panelists. We have members of our local Native American community are also here as well. And they're also going to be sharing some practices and some of their knowledges and some of their experiences. So we're really happy that they're here with us today. And then you're also going to be hearing from my colleague, Dr. Lucha Arevalo, who's in Chicanx Studies. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to hand it off to Angela from the Eastside Cafe. She's got a message to share for us. So let me go ahead and stop the sharing here. And let's see here.
Hi, everyone. Unfortunately, my camera isn't working. This happens often, but I have to completely shut down my computer, but I won't do that right now. So I am so happy to be here. Again, my name is Angela Flores. I'm a community activist, artist, and also a co-founder and co-facilitator of the Space Eastside Cafe in Northeast community of El Sereno, formerly known as Ochunga, the place of the roses in occupied Gabrielino Tongva land. We're very honored to be asked to be here and host the educational encuentro, so thank you. I'm just gonna talk a little bit about the Eastside Cafe history and where we're at today. So the Eastside Cafe Collective Circle started 20 years ago in 2001 as an informal group of folks meeting to have serious dialogue on the social, economic issues we face. We were all very inspired by the movements led by the indigenous people of Chiapas, Mexico, who call themselves the Zapatistas, and the Zapatistas are Mayan, Tojoloval, Tzotzil, Tzetzal, Tzoke, Chol descent folks who uprose against their government and had reclaimed their land, but also worked internally. What do we do to change our ways of thinking that has roots in colonization and white supremacy? We started having dialogue and learning about decolonizing methodologies. So we started learning these methods that would help us. And we learned about horizontality, collectivism, asset-based assessment, respect for one another, and creating a culture of care. In 2002, we had our first official event, a mercado, at the Mazatlan Theater in Etzereno, and began our first wave of mobile events and mercados all over East LA to talk about the importance of self-determination. Our slogan is not a place, a state of mind. But we have a place now, so we say not just a place, a state of mind. And what we mean by that is the revolution starts in the kitchen, or in our front porch, or wherever you may choose, over some pan y café. In 2004, the Eastside Cafe got an actual space, and it was founded by local East LA residents and local Caltrans tenants who saw a need to create a space for cultural arts. And as communities of colors in the Northeast LA area were lacking venues for community convenings, so we took cue again from the Zapatistas in creating autonomous collectives that would allow for creative agency and determination for self-preservation. So for almost 18 years, the Eastside Cafe has been a community cultural hub and BIPOC safe space for political discourse that are affecting our communities. Topics such as immigrant rights issues, anti-Blackness, femicide, LGBTQIA, housing, indigenous rights, and etc. We have been a cultural haven since. Fast forward to 2017. In the midst of doing a lot of anti-gentrification work, the Eastside Cafe building was threatened with displacement when the owner sold the entire building to a developer. Members of the Eastside Cafe had to protest him, and we convinced him to hand over escrow to the Eastside Cafe. With the help of GoFundMe and the larger LA community, the Eastside Cafe raised up to $200,000 to put down as a bona fide down payment. The Eastside Cafe soon became landlords on stolen land, and that didn't sit very well with us. And faced with the challenge at the same time, with the challenge of our neighbors being displaced. So we collectively decided to create a land trust that was separate from the Eastside Cafe that would obtain open land properties in distressed multi-unit apartments and single-family homes to prevent displacement and to engage and respectfully invite the originals peoples of this land to help us take leadership in stewarding the land. The Eastside Cafe core community is constantly reflecting. We are not perfect, but we're always working towards a better world where many worlds fit. We hold space for you all, and we are now celebrating 20 years of that. And in the 20 years, the most asked question is, do you serve coffee? Sadly, we don't serve coffee. I'm so sorry. 20 years ago, we didn't have any cafes. We didn't have venue spaces. Nowadays, you see cafes everywhere. But we thought, why not have something like a cafe where we have a space for community dialogue to create an atmosphere where people can be themselves and grow. And again, I just want to thank you for this opportunity. I can't wait to be at the next Encuentro, where we'll actually be at the Eastside Cafe. And I'll be passing this on to Lucha, our professor. Thanks.
All right, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Thank you, Angela, for providing some LA history. The Eastside Cafe is essential in our community of LA, greater LA area. I know that I shared in the chat how, I've been going to the East Side Cafe since way back when I started at UC Santa Barbara. And I think the exposure to places like this that are truly convivial and public and accessible is so important. I know that, for me growing up in the city of Compton, we didn't have spaces like that. And still today, those spaces are very minimal. So it's so important for us to just support spaces such as this that have been engaging the public for so many years now. And so I just want to share a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste in the chat here the link to the program for today for everyone to access. It is a Google Doc. And I just want to share a few words about basically what I wrote, and that's the letter to the community regarding our programming for this year. And I think it's important for us to just remind ourselves that we're coming out of a time, we're not even out of it yet. I mean, we're still in it. So much social unrest and devastation that we've experienced because of the pandemic, that it's so important for us to hold space for educators, whether they're in the classroom or in the community, to collectively witness and hold space for one another to really listen and share, to sustain those practical tools that have enabled us to be able to learn, to be able to heal, and to truly thrive, triunfar, right? As educators, that do this kind of work in our classrooms and in community spaces like the Eastside Cafe and other spaces throughout where we live. We all know that the power of education really translates beyond the classroom, and that we are able to create solutions to old historical problems that still exist today and that manifest themselves in new ways. And that allow for us to reimagine our collective future, right? And so I think it's important to be able to hear each other out and share some of those practical tools, which today is a little bit of that, and contributing to this kind of legacy of resilience in our communities. Sharing and creating new knowledge does offer us all the opportunity to reclaim the loss of value, dignity, and joy that we all deserve. And so I want to invite everyone and welcome you to just share space with one another and to listen to one another. Feel free to drop anything that you feel is necessary that may come to mind in the chat, whether it's a question, it's a comment, feedback, anything. This space is for all of us to utilize as our own. And the program that we have prepared for you really is an ofrenda to our community. It's an offering, a labor of love. This offering is meant to sustain the public's engagement with education and learning, because we know that learning happens in all spaces, places in our lives. And the speakers we have called upon will collectively aid us in reimagining our roles as student, teachers, scholars in and out of educational institutions. In our profession, we must be prepared to understand and tackle issues of racial justice. And that's really the theme that we're kind of zoning in on today here. The speakers of today will each provide a nuanced introspection into their practice. So hopefully you are all accessing the program that I put here in the chat. And I want to briefly share my screen of what that looks like. Let's see if I could do this. Here it is. All right. This is what the program for today looks like. And I do want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors, obviously the Eastside Cafe, the Association of Raza Educators, a shout out to the LA chapter, the LA Indigenous Peoples Alliance. And here you'll see like the contents of what the program contains, the letter to the community that we wrote, but also community agreements that we thought were necessary for making sure that spaces like these remain convivial, but also safe for everyone to participate in. And so actually, I want to kind of jump into that really quickly. I'm not going to go over this, but I hope that you all, if you haven't already taken a look at it, that you do. And then kind of moving along here, I want to point your attention to the Google folder, which you have access to. In this Google folder, you'll see that there are folders here for the lineup of speakers that we have. And there will be things that will be shared throughout today, whether it's links to websites or PDFs or slides that folks have prepared. So feel free to look through that to see if it's already available. And if not, I highly recommend that you create a bookmark and revisit that some point after today's event, where folks will be putting their stuff in there. And then, yeah, so this is the program for today. I'm not going to go through that just yet, but I do want to also say, very last thing, to save the date for our future programming, which we'll be talking about at the very end of today. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And up next, I'm going to be introducing briefly the moderator that we have for today, and that's Ron Espiritu. I know a lot of you may already be familiar with Ron's work. He's definitely an asset to not just our community here, but really across the United States, whose work